will call the meeting to order. And I will ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda of Thursday, August 17th, 2023. Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. This is a quasi judicial hearing regarding,
Approve the minutes.
pardon,
To approve the minutes
we have minutes?
from the last.
Oh, we do have minutes on here.
Me remembering.
Are there any amendments to the minutes?
I have amendments.
Yep.
It says present.
I saw that.
You okay? And then it says,
Got Steve too.
okay. And yeah, I was here and then it said Jen came by Zoom. Yeah.
Yeah, and I had Anita on Zoom.
Zoom and present. Amazing.
Can I say, get around?
That's it.
Okay. Any other amendments? A motion to approve the minutes?
Make a motion. Yeah. I second.
Don't fight. Do we have that motion?
Yes,
Is there a second?
yes. And then Carvey did it and then I seconded.
Those in favor? Aye.
Hi.
Okay. Now we can do the quasi judicial hearing regarding DRB 23-08. Dave Orloff, Architects applicant, on behalf of Paul White for building a new accessory dwelling unit above a new garage. Property is owned by Paul White and located on East Tanana Street. A residential moderate density R1 zone. The application will be reviewed against the criteria of municipal code, chapter 17.44. Design review criteria. Does anyone object to the jurisdiction of the design review board to hear this matter at this time? Does any commission member believe he or she has a conflict of interest or personal bias?
No.
Okay, has any commission member had an ex parte contact or made a site visit?
Site visit.
Site visit. Jen? Are you there?
I'm here and no, I did not have a site visit.
Oh, okay. All right, we'll let it slide this time. So the staff report.
Good afternoon. The proposed project is the construction of an accessory dwelling unit in conjunction with a new single-family dwelling on an undeveloped parcel of land, tax lot 600 on East Tanana Avenue. The applicant is proposing to construct an accessory dwelling unit on the second floor of a detached garage that would be located behind the single-family dwelling. The subject property is an undeveloped 7,000 square foot parcel measuring 50 by 140 feet and zoned R1 residential moderate density. Adjacent neighborhood uses are primarily residential. The proposed accessory dwelling unit would be located above the two-car garage and would provide 576 square feet of living area. Additional parking would be provided by two 9 by 18 foot parking spaces in the driveway adjacent to the west side of the home that would be accessed from East Tanana Avenue. This proposal is brought before the design review board as accessory dwelling units. As new accessory dwelling units in conjunction with new construction are subject to design review. Moving into the approval criteria for 1744-080, the site design evaluation criteria. Item A, regarding the arrangement of functions. The property has some slope at the southeast corner rear of the lot. So the applicant is proposing to construct the house, garage, and ADU in the north and west areas of the property. Moving into item B, regarding setback from street or sidewalk. This is an undeveloped property and the applicant appears to have proposed building and site plans that are compatible with the lot and neighborhood properties. Item C. The design incorporates existing features such as streams, rocks, etc. Comment is the design will remove a couple of trees, actually a number of trees around the building footprint, but adds landscaping along the front and the front of the home facing Tanana and maintains some existing trees on the property. Moving into item D. The project is unusually large or located to become an introduction transition to the city. The project is not unusually large or located so that it would become an introduction or transition to the neighborhood or the beat. The design appears compatible with other residences in the neighborhood. Item E, where appropriate, the design relates or integrates proposed landscaping. The staff comment is, as the subject property is a single-family detached residence, a pedestrian circulation system is not required with this application. Moving into F, excuse me. Regarding the arrangement of the improvements on the site so as not to unreasonably degrade scenic values. The proposed building and site design appears similar to other single-family homes properties in the neighborhood and does not have a significant impact on scenic values of the surrounding area. Item G. Regarding enhancing or denying solar access. The proposed design does not have any identified impacts on solar access, light, or air that would impact adjacent sites or structures. And then criterion F does not apply as it is a single family residence and pedestrian circulation systems are not required. Again, with item I, there are no significant vistas that are being impacted. Item J, the various functions and elements of the site design have been integrated into a whole, except in those cases where the separation is appropriate. The staff comment is that the proposed building design appears to be consistent with existing residential development in the neighborhood. Then with item K, regarding placement or storage of mechanical equipment, there is no mechanical equipment that needs to be screened from view. Item L, the project is not visible to or adjacent to Highway 101. And then the final agenda or the final item for section 080. The arrangement of functions, uses, and improvements on the site have been designed to provide access for individuals with disabilities. Again, as this is a private single-family residence, the proposal does not need to be designed in a way that is compatible with ADA accessibility standards. Moving into the architectural design evaluation criteria. On item A, the design is compatible with existing residences in the area and is not monotonous or excessively dissimilar from existing development. Item B, the design, shape, and scale of the proposal are consistent with existing residential development. Item C, the proposed materials and colors are consistent with the character of Cannon Beach. The exterior will be sided with #1 cedar shingles and trim and be painted white. Item D, the proposed garage ADU appears to use design, materials, and colors that are compatible with the home to be constructed and appear to be compatible with other residences in the neighborhood. Criterion E, which addresses large motels or condominiums, does not apply to this application. Nor does criterion F, as the project is not unusually large. Item G, the height of the structure. The maximum building height does not exceed the 28-foot vertical height above existing grade allowed for a structure with 512 pitched roof. It is consistent with the height and scale of other residential development in the area. Moving to item H, the proposed arrangement does not appear to significantly impact or degrade scenic values enjoyed from the surrounding area. Item I, the proposed design does not significantly impact views or scenic vistas from neighboring properties. And item J, it does not unreasonably deny solar access, light, or air to adjacent structures on or off the site. Item K, the design provides reasonably easy pedestrian access. Item L does not apply as there is no signage with this application. Item M, I did not write the staff report, so this information is incorrect. It appears to have been carried over from an earlier staff report. Sheet exhibit A6, which is sheet AE 1.1 ADU and garage electrical plans. That does include lighting information that applies to the structure, and it does show that the residential lighting that would be installed is downcast and is compliant with established code for residential structures. Moving into item N. No information has been provided by the applicant regarding energy conservation measures. And then item O. There are no anticipated impacts to privacy of occupants or adjacent structures as a result of this proposal. And then moving into the final portion here, section 100, landscape and design evaluation criteria. Item A, the design appears to complement the character of the site. Moving into item B, the proposed landscaping appears to be in harmony with the architectural design. Item C, the proposed landscaping design appears to satisfy the criterion. Item D, this is an undeveloped lot and the applicant proposes to maintain and install new landscaping which appears to satisfy the criterion. E, as the subject property is a single-family dwelling, this criterion does not apply to the application, and this regards public amenities. Item F, efforts have been made to maintain some of the existing trees and install new landscaping, which appears to satisfy this criterion. Item G, the selection and arrangement of plants and materials provides visual interest. The proposed landscape plan appears to satisfy this criterion. Item H, regarding hard surface portion of the applicant, the application addresses this criterion. As is the same with item I, which deals with creating a variety of elevations, and also item J. Item K, as the property is a single family residence, there are not any separate use areas which would be present with a commercial project. And again, with item L, I would reference exhibit A6, which includes the lighting plan for the property. And that concludes the staff report.
Thank you, Robert.
Okay, thank you. Is there any additional correspondence?
No, the most recent correspondence we received was the August 10th letter that I believe was included packet.
Okay, so
There was a letter from a neighbor, correctly?
Yeah. And the neighbors are here this evening. It was from Jonathan and my own Haneke. And list a couple of concerns they have that I'm sure they may wish to express this evening as well.
okay,
And then there was communication from an arborist as well.
I believe that was also both from the applicant's arborist as well as the city's arborist.
City arborist.
Correct. Both.
one is the city arborist.
That would be Jeff Gearhart from Treescapes Northwest.
Good. Okay. Call for public testimony. Pertinent criteria to be considered are noted in the staff report and listed in the criteria sheets posted on the meeting page of the city's website. Testimony, arguments, and evidence must be directed toward that criteria or other criteria in the comprehensive or municipal code, which the person testifying believes to apply to the decision. Failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements of evidence sufficient to afford the decision maker and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes appeal based on that issue. Prior to the conclusion of the initial evidentiary hearing, any participant may request an opportunity to present additional testimony, arguments, or evidence regarding the application. The design review board shall grant such requests by continuing the public hearing or leaving the record open for additional written testimony or arguments or evidence. Persons who testify shall receive recognition from the chair, state their full name and mailing address, and if appearing as a representative, identify whom they represent. Is there a presentation by the applicant?
Yes, J. Orloff, Tolvan Architects, PO Box 563, Cannon Beach, Oregon.
Okay,
Thank you for taking your time this evening to review our project. As noted, I'll repeat some of what Robert has spoken about. We are looking to, our proposed structure is a ADU above a two-car garage located on the southwest site of the site. As also noted, the site is sloped with increasing slope towards the southeast side. The decision to locate the garage in this area is due to that condition. And even so, we will be working with some rather increased structural to do so. We are a 50 by 100 site. Typically garages are in the front or in the back. We have chosen to put it in the back because of the site conditions and also street appeal. Having garage doors on the very front of the street, especially with an ADU in front of it, and burying the house in the backyard was not a direction that we wanted to go. Again, because of the slope, we do have it in that back corner, out of that slope area. The house, the garage and ADU itself, in its design, addresses toward the street. We are within our standard limit of 600 square feet. Our vernacular is that of Cannon Beach, shingles, white trim, white windows, composition roof, 512 pitch. I've added some architectural elements to it, such as the lattice work in front of the garage so that we don't have just a straight flat face to it. Our access is through a stairway on the east side. Our lighting is dark sky compliant, 2 at the garage door and 1 at the entry door at the ADU. Now I see there are some comments about the trees. This site, all of our trees are in the middle of the site. Any sort of development will, in any way, will require these trees to be removed. We have in our landscape plan, per the code requirement for replacing trees, have added 2 additional trees on the north site. Those are the vine maples. We've added landscaping at the underneath the deck, the upper level deck at the entry of the front of the house and along the entry. We have decided to leave the natural environment to the east and the south, retaining 36-inch spruce across in the neighboring property, 32-inch hemlock, and 36-inch hemlock toward the south. In any other design, inevitably these trees again will be affected. The trees to be saved will have their tree protection zones per the arborist. We are not infringing upon their canopies, so their root structure is not going to be impacted. The trees that are to be removed, though established, are also on, some of them are on nurse logs. There's a nurse log with a couple of the trees at the location of the garage, the ADU. Others are right again directly either in the house footprint or within the circulation footprint. So with a decision, inevitably, uncontrollably, we'll have to address that. The only option is not to do the garage, and that unfortunately is not a direction that the owner would like to go. We are providing additional ADUs for long-term rental for our community, which it desperately needs. And I feel that we've addressed that in a nice and consistent vernacular of the city. At this point, I'd be happy to take any questions that you might have.
How many trees are taken out just with the ADU? I'm trying to figure that out.
The ADU, there is a 48-inch spruce, there's a holly cluster, and there's a 36-inch spruce, which is within the circulation path. The 48-inch spruce is directly in the buildable area of the ADU.
The staff report is a little misleading where you see a couple of trees would be removed,
Or the ADU,
more like 8.
right?
So the ADU itself requires the removal of 2 of those trees.
I think he said more than that.
Correct. There's a 36-inch spruce, which is underneath the stairway. There's a 48-inch spruce, which is directly in the ADU footprint. And there's also a holly cluster, which is to the west of the ADU and garage. The rest of the trees are within the house footprint itself.
So the holly cluster will be removed as well?
Yeah, yes, that will be impacted. It's within 2 feet of the garage. It's in the 5-foot yard side setback. And you can see this is noted on sheet AS 1.0.
You know, with these are too small for me.
If I bring the pad, I can zoom in. If
And
you want to zoom in, let me know.
be helpful if we could get these drawings printed out at a larger scale. This type of meeting.
So you can, the one that's within the footprint, you can see the tree to be removed right in the middle of the ADU.
Tree to be removed, tree to be removed.
Right in the middle of the ADU. There's a tree as well. To the, or I'm sorry, to the left of the garage is the holly cluster.
What's this? Is that the
And,
sun?
and the stairway up to the ADU also has a note tree to be removed.
That's the area of concern for the ADU, I guess. We don't remove the house.
No, I know.
Everyone.
What is this around the
You-
garage?
Do you know,
Is that-
Harvey,
is that
what's
the
the perforated,
circle?
the perforated line around it?
That's just the marks, the area
that Okay.
we're supposed to study.
Okay.
They want us to study.
Oh,
Okay.
The dash line, the dash line shows the tree with the arrow pointing to the center. The additional line outside, the dash line outside of it is the canopy.
Okay. That's interesting. Okay.
So without the garage and the ADU, would it be possible to save more trees?
One,
But isn't it more than that?
the one tree that we're still gonna have to have parking and access, which would affect the one under the stairs. So the tree directly in the footprint would be the one that would be saved.
What if you were to narrow the building?
Narrow the house itself.
Yes.
There still is enough room for a house and a 2-car detached garage. The garage itself is roughly 24 feet, I believe. In our 50-foot buildable site, we're 40 feet. That would leave only 15 feet for the house.
These days, many homes are built 20 feet wide. And garages can even be 20 feet. Would there be a possibility of a 20-foot wide building?
Not with this design or a 2-car garage. It's just going to be too compact. They would be bashing their doors together.
Right, so we give up a lot if by putting the garage in the back.
We would be giving more if we put the house in the back. because it would still, the house in the back would still be within the footprint of these trees.
If you set the house more narrow, you could save most of the trees.
I would disagree with you there. I'm sorry. The narrow house would be a shotgun only for a considerable amount of it, which would also push additional towards the back, which would definitely take out the 36-inch spruce that is in the stairway. In addition, we're only allowed a 10% infraction to the canopy itself. So even so, the house and the garage would be pushed into the canopy of the 48-inch spruce, which defines, the canopy defines the root structure. That would reduce the amount of root structure still as well and put the tree in jeopardy. And also it would put it probably in a fall zone because we're taking it out on the upper slope.
Can you explain the rule around the canopy?
We're allowed a 10% infraction to the canopy. So even, and our arborist is very hesitant to do this as well, that 10% of the canopy or root structure within that canopy removed is about the most that we can take out of it, sort of a rule of thumb. If we go more than 10% of the root structure, the tree has the chance of being put in jeopardy either for its demise or for its structural capability of standing.
Because you're disrupting the root.
Correct.
Could you cantilever?
We would still have some sort of footings out there. Again, the garage and the house would be pushing into that 48-inch spruce. You can see where the edge of that canopy, which is roughly about 10 feet off the back of that house.
Is it the canopy or the root structure that you're really worried about?
Canopy is a relationship to the root structure.
Right. So if you were to build a home to clear the root structure, you could say that you could keep maintaining the trees.
There is a possibility of that, but then we'll also have to be trimming the canopy. So it's sort of a this and that sort of thing. Generally, we try to stay out of both of them, building and construction, whether it's cantilevered over or having to require to trim the tree itself, limbing up. But in this case, regardless, the house and the addition of the garage and the requirement, we're taking out half the floor of the house on the lower, which would be added to the rear. The upper floor would become larger, and we would again be infracting upon that 48-inch spruce.
Yeah, you would lose a couple of trees if you kept the same square footage.
That's sort of the direction I'm saying. If we kept the house, if we took the house and the garage, combined them, kept the same square footage, which is within our limits, the same two trees would be affected.
He keeps asking questions about the usage of it, or do we have to do public comment first?
The applicants and to talk, and then when we get to our discussion.
Oh, okay, yeah, I feel like I'm out of order. It's like,
Yeah, you have anything else, Jay? At this point?
it's like, do I write credit card? Straight there.
I don't think he heard you.
Jay, do you have anything else at this point?
No, but I would like the opportunity to respond to any public comments as well.
Okay. Are there presentations by other proponents? Are there any presentations by opponents?
That's you guys.
Hi, my name is Michelle Johnson.
My address is P.O. Box 121, Cannon Beach, and I am a property owner within 100 feet of this proposed site. My address is 151 East. I'm opposed to allowing the accessory dwelling unit to be built above the proposed attached garage in conjunction with a single-family R1 zone home located on East Tanana Avenue. This is an R1 zone site, meaning single-family residence. Obviously, I have zero opposition to single-family home being built. However, I do take issue with what essentially amounts to creating an R1 zoned area into a R2 zoned area. This, the way this is proposed, it sure appears that there will likely be two separate units. One unit being the main house and the other a detached garage becoming a separate apartment, which is why this has even come before the design review committee. If the owner was building a single family dwelling, there would be no need to come before this committee. In reading the municipal code chapter 17.44.080 for site design evaluation criteria to be used in evaluating site development plans, with 3 being the most important to be considered. As stated in the code, the arrangement of all functions, uses, and improvements has been designed so as to reflect and harmonize with the natural characteristics and limitations of the site and adjacent sites. There are only 4 home sites on East Tanana, 3 of which are full-time residents, and we're all here today, and we all comply with the standard R1 zone. In addition, many of you may not be aware, but several years ago, the city of Cannon Beach arbitrarily gave up 8 feet along the north boundary of East Tanana to the property owners located at 139 and 147 Amber Lane, thereby making East Tanana more narrow and very difficult for ingress and egress, especially for my neighbor, Peter Lindsay, and myself. Essentially, we have to do a 3-point turn in order to get out of our street. Parking and ingress and egress is already compromised, and the addition of another dwelling other than a single family home greatly affects the adjacent neighboring properties. I was never notified about this particular meeting. I never received anything in the mail. I was informed by my neighbor, Peter Lindsay, who gave me a copy of what he had received from the city of Cannon Beach, dated July 28th of 2023. At that time, when I got it just a handful of days ago, I was told that the meeting was going to be held on the 24th, and just found out yesterday that it was moved to tonight. So I have not had a chance to see or review any of the house plans or the plans for the proposed ADU on the site. I recently, before making the presentation here tonight, Myung and John had given me a copy of what they had sent into you guys with their opposition, mostly regarding the trees. There are a lot of trees on not only the site, but in our area here. And I think with the addition of the detached garage behind the house, it does compromise trees that are along that area, especially to the west. That roots could be compromised and therefore make the trees unsafe, and perhaps not only for the surrounding neighbors, us, but also to the properties along Hemlock Street. Right now, there's a couple trees that are leaning quite severely along that bank. And I think any further disruption of property behind where an existing main house would be would really compromise the integrity of the properties along the west of the subject, and could possibly come down onto their homes. So based on the criteria, as I pointed out, I feel that the addition of a detached garage with an auxiliary dwelling behind it. I'm opposed to it because of the limitations of the site itself. I'm opposed to it for the limitations of the street by adding essentially another party to have a car or even try to get in and out of that street is really very compromised. So that is essentially why I'm opposed to it. And I'm opposed to it based on your own criteria. 17.44.08 site evaluation, and there are considerable limitations to that site. That's all I have to say at this time. Do I need to sign this?
Thank you. Any other opponents wish to speak?
Submitted.
Jam? She's done there. You're welcome to step up.
I'm Jan Seabird Warman, PO Box 778 Cannon Beach. And dear Design Review Board members, I ask you to deny DRB 23-08 at this time. Like our Cannon Beach City Arborist and nearby neighbors of this property, I have concerns regarding the proposed removal of many of the large trees for the development and the probable negative effects to the neighboring properties. It is hoped that the applicant can find an alternative plan that can protect at least some of the large spruce trees on the site, as well as keeping the hemlock trees intact. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other presentations for work on?
I don't think I probably shouldn't do this, but I am the immediately adjacent neighbor. My name is Peter Lindsay. I've lived here since 1954. And
what's your address?
Pardon me?
Your address.
My address is 147 East Tanana. And as a matter of fact, I bought the piece of property that I currently own from Don Howell, who was the first public works director, and his family essentially pioneered down in Tolobana. And there was no East Tanana until I built it, because there wasn't, all it was an elk trail that ran, in a manner of speaking, from Hemlock Street toward 101 and surrounding woodlands. And with the help of the McEwens and other people, I created the street. I brought in the sewage system, water system, the electrical system, and any infrastructure that the people on East Tanana now are able to use. And my chief concern is Michelle's. I'm concerned about the trees, because I can tell you changing the arboreal characteristics and the wind patterns can have long effects. I had a tree spear through my kitchen roof, a substantial limb, a number of years ago now, when we had a windstorm. And from that time to this, I quail when sometimes I even leave my house and stay at my friend's place, because I worry about it considerably. And if if this additional structure is going to affect the trees and the canopy and all of that, then I'm averse to it. Thank you. If you have any questions, I hope I can answer.
Okay. Is there staff response to any of that?
Yes, I'd like,
Oh,
Oh, the question was for a staff response.
Yeah. At this point in time, we had an opportunity, I believe, Emily had an opportunity to talk to Ms. Johnson yesterday. There was a little bit in terms of submitting the notices to addresses that are part of the county assessor's records, and it sounds like there could be some differences there. So there was one sent out. I think there were some conversations and getting some plans and things like that yesterday. So we apologize for any inconvenience that way. Other than that, there was mention of the ADU in terms of not fitting the R1 zone. And the ADU is something that is allowed in the R1 zone. So I'm not saying that it's not in character with the rest of the neighborhood. I'm just saying by the rules of the R1 zone, there's a reason that allows the applicant to at least apply for it.
okay.
So as I understand it, we do allow multifamily dwellings if one of the units is considered an ADU.
I'm not sure that it's considered multifamily. It's an accessory dwelling. So in the single family zone, these are two separate buildings. So that it's not a multifamily building. I guess the closest thing you could say to it might be somewhat of just two dwellings on the lot, but they're restricted in size. There's the single family home that is permitted, and then the accessory dwelling that is allowed as well.
And yet the garage for the main building is the base for the ADU.
That's correct.
As I understand it from Robert, that the reason why we get to evaluate these things is because an ADU then makes it a multifamily dwelling.
Well, somewhat. It's getting reviewed under those same basic criteria, kind of like a duplex, but that doesn't negate the fact that it is a permitted use. An ADU is a permitted use in the R1 zone.
Yes, I think the way the zoning ordinance was crafted, I don't know if it's necessarily the building or the, whether it's considered multifamily or not, but the way the ordinance was drafted and adopted allows for the single family as well as someone to construct an ADU in terms of how the zoning ordinance was crafted to allow these types of other dwelling units.
But the reason we're evaluating it is because it's a multifamily dwelling.
No, the reason why we're looking at it is because in the ordinance, it says under accessory dwelling units, they must go to the design review board for review and approval.
Okay. Does the applicant have any additional statements? Jay?
in regards to discussion of multifamily or ADU. As stated by both Robert and Steve, section 17.12.2.0 or 20, section H, accessory dwelling which satisfies the requirements of 1754.080, which is what the design review is to, it has their jurisdiction over. So this is not considered a multifamily. It is an accessory dwelling within the allowable use of the R1 municipal code. In response to the regards to reviewing house plans, the house does not fall underneath jurisdiction of design review, only the ADU and its structure. In regards to parking, within the section 1754.040, we are required to provide one additional parking spot for the ADU. We have 2 parking spots within the garage, 1 within the driveway. So we satisfied those requirements as well.
I would question that because my reading was that for a single family house, you provide 2 parking spaces and you need to provide an additional parking space for an accessory dwelling. So there should be 3.
Correct. He just said he's providing 3 parking spaces.
I thought he's just said 2. I'm sorry.
The two in the garage and then the parking can also be included in the driveway portion.
I see.
So there's the 2 spaces in the garage and the length of the driveway allows for an additional parking space in it.
Okay.
Which blocks the 2 spaces in the garage from being used.
The third spot can be towards the stairs, which would not block the exit of the 1 car to the west. We have enough space there. In regards to the trees, we are staying out of the footprints and the canopies of the 3 to the south and east, the 36-inch spruce and the 2 hemlocks. I have empathy towards the trees. I do try to take that in consideration in these designs, not only in the footprints, the locations, but in addition to the structure that holds the structure that holds the buildings up. I do that as much as possible. And if you know my history and my plans in this city, I do it as much as possible. I cantilever, I use helical pier anchors if I can and if applicable. And again, I take those in consideration. In this site, unfortunately, and these are the sites that are left in our city to be buildable. This in particular one has trees all down the middle and canopies that would be affected within an allowable building area. If this was a house with a 2-car garage, I would be affecting all the same trees, whether to the north, to the south. The ones that I can preserve, even in a single family house with a 2-car garage, would be the 3 trees, the 36-inch spruce and the 2 alders, which are outside of a economically buildable footprint. The drastic slope to the south and east is something that I would have stayed out of regardless of the ADU detached garage or not. And that again would push me into those canopies. Moving the house further to the south, I would still impact the 50-inch spruce to the north. And again, push me further back into the trees to the south. So this is a difficult site, and I understand your concern and the neighbor's concern. The location that we're putting the house and the construction will continue the stability of the site. In our construction, we'll put up our tree protection zones underneath the canopies of the trees, and along with our erosion control fencing for the construction. So we are taking those in consideration. I'm not willy-nilly just putting this wherever I feel like. We have thought this through, and again, inevitably, even without the ADU, and which would not put us here today, I would affect the same trees, unfortunately. And this is just the unfortunate consideration of this site specifically.
Do any geological survey at all to determine the impact of that slope by removing these trees?
Yes, we have done a complete geological survey for the house and the structure. We have addressed it through the garage itself is actually on helical piers along with the strip footing. We reduced the size of the footing itself with the helical piers to stay out of that 32-inch hemlock. So we have taken those considerations. We had a full geohazard report, which we've submitted to the city, which is required for the sites with the slope with this, I believe it's over 15% slope. So they have that on file.
Will this be going before the planning commission at all?
No, strictly before the design review board. If there wasn't the accessory dwelling unit, it would be just a building permit.
Well, I guess I'm questioning the stream site here that I see on page 9.
Yep.
And I'm wondering if that is identified in the stream corridor protection, chapter 17.71, which I think would require a planning commission to review
Actually,
plan.
so building site, if you look at the map that comes on the staff report,
Yep, that's what I'm looking at, page 9.
okay. So this shows wetland 26 and 28, and also the stream corridors for both of those. The thick black line on the map is the extent of the 5-foot buffer. And as you will see from this map, that 5-foot buffer does not extend onto the subject property, which is delineated by the red rectangle on the map. And therefore, the wetland criteria do not apply to the subject property.
No, I'm talking about the stream corridor protection, in particular 17.71.030, which states that a 10-foot buffer is established on both sides of the streams that are identified to be applicable to that.
And
section.
the stream buffer is significantly smaller than the wetland buffer in this case, because it would go from the bank of the stream 10 feet either direction. The wetland is significantly larger than the stream.
And there are going to be pilings in from the garage into the development of the ADU. Is that, I couldn't really, I mean, even with my glasses and a magnifying glass, I couldn't really, and there's a silt fence diagram, and looking at that slope, that's where I'm just not sure if the stream corridor protection would come into effect for the planning commission to perhaps look at the site plan to determine that it's following.
So in answer to question 1, yes, my understanding is that pilings will be used. As per question 2 regarding the stream corridor, based on the information we have, the subject property does not fall within the stream corridor or its buffer. So that does not trigger a review by the planning commission.
I don't know where this is on the map.
Hold on. Wait, where are we at? I accidentally hit something and I went to the. Where are we looking? Oh, wait. Okay, hold on.
Yes, stop.
Let me make it.
If you want. That's the same one we're.
Where'd it go? Oh, it's gone. Where is it?
This is, it's in your packet,
In the packet.
page 9 in the
Maybe.
packet.
The subject properties
Page 9.
outlined in black.
PDF page 11.
Oh, here it is.
Okay,
So that shows we're about 10 feet back.
The garage structure is at least 40 feet from the corner of the southeast of property.
I found it.
okay. Any other comments? Okay,
No, unless I'd just like the opportunity to respond to anything else you might have if needed.
okay.
Thank you.
So we will close the public hearing and move into consideration. Motion to approve the site plan.
I have,
Aren't we going to have discussion?
yeah, discussion.
Of the comprehensive discussion.
Yeah,
Well, we can have discussion first, or we can have motion first and then discussion.
I think we
discuss
discussed
first.
and decide on the motion.
Okay. Discussion.
Discussion. I have concern, what is this? This is under the architectural design criteria.
Site plan.
Discussion. We're
Discussion.
not doing motions right now. We're doing discussion.
Okay,
I'm listening.
Like, good, okay, so whatever, letter O. The design that projects project ensures continued privacy for the occupants of adjacent structure in case of multi-family housing, et cetera, et cetera. So my concern is, what is the purpose of this ADU? Because what I've brought up before, the flaw in the code that people can actually use the ADU as their primary residence and use the main house as an Airbnb, or I'm sorry, a short-term rental. So that's a flaw in the code. And then one of the neighbors will end up living next to a short-term rental. So that's my concern. One of them concerns.
Okay.
That's why I'm trying to get it to planning commission, if we could find.
Yeah, they won't go to them.
Well, I'm trying to figure out a way.
That could
So that's
be-
one of my
that could
concerns.
Be the case without the ADU though, so.
But that could be the case, but there has an admitted flaw in the code. We've talked about it before. And they can still have their beach house, yet make money by short-term renting, because that you can't short-term rent an ADU.
Right.
You have to do a 30-day. But they could just go, hey, I'm gonna go to the beach and stay in their ADU that's under 600 square feet and go, well, that's cool, but we're still getting all of our money from our STR. I'm not saying that's happening. I'm just saying that is a problem. And we don't know. And there's actual residents that live, it's pretty rare in Cannon Beach, that there's a lot of residents live on this street. So creating a little mini hotel seems,
So you're saying.
for lack of a better term.
We need to change the code.
Yeah, there's a flaw in the code.
If you
That's,
have an ADU, none of it can be short-term rental, none of that.
yeah. I mean, so that's one of my concerns. Also, are there any other, I tried to look around on the street. There are no other ADUs on that street, right? So that doesn't really, like, the arrangement of, I've lost the part where it was complying to everything else on that street. So,
As far as,
In the architectural section.
yeah, I think so. I lost it. I'm like, oh, I think,
I don't know if it's B.
maybe it was site criteria. Let's see.
yeah, maybe that's architectural B, shape and scale. Actually compatible with the site and surrounding neighborhood. Sufficiently modest. I mean, I guess that's subjective to enhance care.
I mean, I feel like they can say they're gonna make a long-term rental all they want, but who knows that they may sell it next year. Like,
Well, I think when you have an ADU, you're subject to having to sign an affidavit stating that you have not rented it for less than 30 days.
30 days, which is, yes,
Mhm. Sort of.
not a long term.
Right. I mean, it does seem to beg the question, what's the real purpose of the
ADU.
other than to make additional income, which
Yeah.
is
Well, and some people,
rates to
yeah,
make income, but I think that Cannon Beach is trying to get a handle on that. So that we don't just turn into a giant short-term rental resident.
You know,
turn into.
on the other hand, they're trying to promote affordable housing.
Right, but we haven't been,
An ADU.
there's no guarantee that that's gonna be
potential.
housing for anyone.
Yeah. And this would just be considered actually middle housing, not affordable housing, because affordable housing is 30% of your income.
Yeah, I don't know. I wish that there was a way we could get this to planning commission for review on things that aren't in our jurisdiction.
Let's see.
My main concern with the site plan would be the impact of removing all those trees.
Yeah, I mean, it states that if there's just a couple,
on
but
the,
I counted,
Stability of,
and they weren't marked as they should be with a tree permit. They're supposed to mark the trees that are going to be removed, and I didn't see any indication of which trees, except when you look at the entire site plan, and maybe I'm not supposed to be saying this, but it looks like every single tree. So when they say that they're gonna remove a couple trees and try to maintain existing trees, I couldn't figure that one out.
You know, just looking at these criteria, the arrangement of improvement on the site does not unreasonably degrade the scenic value of the surrounding area. I mean, that's up to us. I would say it does degrade.
I believe that the way that the ADU was added and the parking for the ADU, they definitely compromise.
Yeah.
The appearance of the area.
I think we lost Jen.
I think we lost Jen.
Yeah, she said her phone was about to die and or her computer or something was supposed to die, so.
Okay,
Wish she was here.
where we at?
Well, we're still.
I'm so bad at motions. I'd love to make a motion.
And I guess I couldn't see the landscape plan to have any opinion. I mean, it just didn't seem like there was much to it, although I just couldn't read the small print, so it's hard for me to know what it is that they're going to be landscaping.
Also, can't totally tell if the height of the 28 feet, would that block Mr. Lindsay's? I mean, his view already? I mean,
It's just going to be a house right there when he looks west. Won't be those beautiful trees.
and that's another, degrading the scenic value,
Mhm.
Which direction are you guys from this lot?
They're to the west.
We are due west. Michelle is.
Peter's due east, and I'm just adjacent,
You guys,
just east.
You're at the top of the hill with the turnaround.
Well, there is no turnaround.
Well, I mean, that's where I turned around when I went and looked.
And then you're going to do a 3-point turn.
Yeah.
But in terms of the view, if I may, Peter's deck will be impacted certainly by the main structure of the house. Not sure about the ADU, but view of the ocean and rocks.
okay, thank you. Oh, shoot. What to do with this?
So,
Suggestions?
Comments from us. I think the only thing that I would mention just for, the neighbors as well as the board is just to be aware that, we're taking a look at the ADU. Obviously, they could come in with the home and the garage, and that could be something that whether it's the neighbors or, anyone else, there would be applications that could be signed off for that. There are certain permits that could be reviewed and considered and notices out there, but it's just something that the board should be aware of is that they could have come in with the home and just a garage without an ADU and submitted for permits. Just so everyone's aware of that.
Yeah, and we would not be involved.
That's correct, but the ADU brings it to the DRB for review.
So you saw the geological report. Were you satisfied with that as far as any impact the ADU would have on the stream bed and?
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at it from the standpoint of the structure as well as that, and it felt comfortable that us and the building inspection department would be able to approve it based on what was submitted.
So since it has come before us though, and the ADU does wind up affecting the scenic view,
Yes,
then we need to consider that.
absolutely.
But it sounds like it does not. It's the house that affects the view. My impression would be that we don't have any reason to deny the ADU.
Oh,
Oh, I think we do.
I think we do too.
Totally. Totally. Because the way the ADU is cited on the property and the parking that's provided for the ADU, as it's been done, results in the removal of trees that impact scenic view.
But it's the location of the garage that impacts the trees, not the ADU.
That's the parking for the ADU. Part of the parking, part of the 3 parking spots.
You should eliminate ADU and then we don't look at it.
You took the job, Dave.
But we're here doing that, right?
Well, if you want to,
You want to make a
you want
motion?
to make a motion on
I'm terrible.
site plan and then state what criteria we would deny, that's what we would need to do. So being specific, and if you could show me on any one of our criteria where we could deny, I will. Yeah,
There's a lot of scenic view.
okay, so which one, where is that?
F.
Site F,
F.
and is that,
The arrangement and improvements of the site does not unreasonably vary the scenic view in the surrounding areas.
well, F? No, it wouldn't be, where is that? Oh, that's architect.
Yeah, I'm not-
That's a site.
What about A? The arrangement of all functions using the improvements has been designed so to reflect and harmonize with the natural characteristics and limitations of the site and adjacent sites. Anyone?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Um. So.
Yeah,
Yes.
unfortunately, I'm not sure how to deny it.
But that
I
doesn't,
don't like it, but I don't see how we can.
that's not a way to deny it, but that the arrangement,
I don't know that one objective criteria is enough to
but we have all the neighbors here saying that it's bumming them out.
well, yeah, and I think that if they could have been specific that, it's going to impact my view, it's going to change the landscape of the neighborhood. It's going to create a quagmire of
Mhm.
traffic. That.
Well, based on,
It's the geological report, just, and I think that the arborist, Jeff, spoke to the fact that removing all those trees would create a potential situation.
Yeah.
But he
What
doesn't.
people are concerned about is other trees coming down.
well, and then what's the, yeah, based on okay, sorry. I'm just trying to figure it out.
I know.
Yeah.
Know what that means.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's fine though. I mean,
the arborist says he would prefer to leave trees, but he doesn't really say how to do that.
Could we continue it and ask the architect to apply his innovative skills and see if he can
I wish we would require a more compelling reason for an ADU, you know, and have a specific, you know, this is going to be long-term housing, not just with a 30-day minimum.
That too.
And I think that would go a long way in helping support it, when by appearances, it would seem that it's just a way for a property owner to have a nice big BRB and then have a little ADU to stay in when they want their turn to come to the beach. And but then I don't know if the requirement for 30 days, if the owner is in the ADU, do they have to stay 30 days? Or if they own the property, can they just come in for the weekend and say, well, we're just staying in the ADU for the weekend.
They can,
We're
yeah.
renting out the house. So then that sort of negates the requirement of the ADU for a 30-day usage.
Well, they're not renting it, so they, yes.
Right. So it's trying to,
So,
you know, but
I think the 30-day comes in just from the standpoint of talking about like your typical long-term lease.
Yeah.
That's where the 30 days just came in. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but that's
A
where
month,
the idea,
months.
right, exactly. That's where it was coming from.
well, I thought that it was originally so that there wasn't a massive amount of turnover.
Well, yes, yeah, you're correct too, but I think it was more of just like a person can lease their home,
Yeah.
you know, on a 30-day.
Yeah.
So it's kind of trying to cover the basis instead of having the short.
Yeah, and I believe that the short-term rental code defines a short-term rental as a property being leased for fewer than 30 days.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then there's, what's the other, just oh God, I forgot the other word for not short-term rental, then just a vacation rental. That is 30 days, and then STRs every 14 days. So 14, yeah. So that is another, that what I mean, I already said it, the architectural design criteria. Oh, is it the privacy of the people, the adjacent properties? I mean, if it is, turns into their front house, turns into an STR, which they can do, rent it every 14 days, then that diminishes their ensures continued privacy for the occupants adjacent structures.
We don't have anything, we don't have any criteria that deal with altering the weather protection, do we?
No, I don't.
well, that's what, you know, in the landscape, if I had a better understanding of what they were proposing, I could maybe speak to that, but that's where maybe that's what we could deny is their current landscape proposal and tell them to plant trees.
But that means they have,
I can't see from there. I can't tell what they're planning to plant.
I think the visual is the only criteria we have that applies, and it does apply.
okay, Yeah.
We only need one,
Yeah, you only need one.
and rather than deny it, though, seems like
Yeah, see, that's where I just, you know, we can deny it and then they can appeal it and then.
yeah, well,
Okay.
That's where, you know, we
Let me ask a
have a
question.
strong enough case, I think, at this point.
I think we have an architect who could do a really good job of providing everything that the owner would like and still maintain the visual of the site. But it seems like if we can continue and do the architect a challenge, that
I
would.
don't know that that's in our, I mean, that's where I was trying to get it to the planning commission, because I think that that's more in their line of being able to say that we would like to see a smaller footprint on this property where we're just looking at the ADU. And I don't know that we have the power to say that you have to completely change your whole design, make the footprint smaller.
Right. And I mean, basically you have the application that's before you.
Yeah.
And so that's what you should be acting on.
yeah.
Can we condition approval on neither the ADU or the primary home being used as a short-term rental?
You can't do that.
I think the way it's done, the ADU and its parking are causing them to upset the visual.
Well, the
of
parking
site.
would be because
So-
it's not clear that there's a definite three spaces.
I
And
thought
so,
it was.
you know, just because you're going to park two cars in the garage doesn't mean you're always going to park two cars in the garage. And then if you've got this third space, I mean, it just seems like it's going to create a bottleneck there for the residents. And that might be something to ask for a better design for the parking.
It just seems like we should give the architect an opportunity to exercise his creativity and provide the client with with all the performance he needs while still protecting the visual.
Why not put an ADU inside your house?
Well, can we
Then we don't
ask
have anything.
the planning?
Can we have it? Don't have anything?
Some of our
Yeah.
questions regarding the parking requirement.
With regards to this, because basically, we're saying, you know, you guys are taking a look at it and seeing whether or not it's meeting it. We've taken a look at it and think that it meets 3 spaces.
Okay.
Well, I know I drove up this street.
That's not to say that you can't
Yeah.
disagree.
Yeah.
That's just that's where we're coming from at this point in time. So you're aware of that. And you certainly could make a motion that's different than that. That's just staff's position.
I think we disagree.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
That's why we're here.
Well, and that's why I was wondering if we could ask the planning commission to take a look at it and see what their thoughts on having the 3 parking spaces as they're submitted meet the requirement, you know, just to have their backing, I feel like would give me the assurance that I need that it absolutely.
Sure, I understand where you're coming from, but the application comes to here, it comes to us from the standpoint of staff. Do you think they're meeting the criteria? Again, we do believe that they're meeting that. So that's just something that the board has to take under consideration yourselves. And that application is brought to you. So I understand your comments, but the decision has to be made here.
Yeah. I know I drove up that street this morning, double checked, and I started to back down it like it was a driveway. And I was like, oh, wait a second, this is a street. And then I was like, oh, went up and did a turn and having, you know, an ADU, an auxiliary dwelling unit is putting more stress on a street that I don't know.
Yes.
Especially if it does become an Airbnb.
We have a couple more comments back there.
I think
That would be up to you to decide, but I think at this point in time, the hearing's closed. So it'd be up to you as to whether or not you would allow for any more testimony, but the hearing's closed.
So just to clarify, the board can't decide now to hear neighbors again.
You can ask questions of the neighbors if you so choose, but the hearing itself is closed.
So we may ask and they can respond.
If you'd like to do so.
Just want to-
Yep.
Would you like to do so?
me? Oh.
Harvey?
I don't have any questions.
Open public comment.
No, the hearing's closed.
Yeah, that.
But you can ask questions.
Okay,
Well, I would like to question the owners that submitted the letter and what they would answer hearing our discussion.
I think you need to, if you could state your name and come up to the microphone so people can hear you.
I think this is something that should require reopening the record.
All right.
Hi,
Good evening. I'm Young Hunnicky and this is my husband.
And Jonathan Hunnicky.
And we're at 2539 South Henry. So we're at the property west of this property.
Yeah, they can reopen.
We submitted the letter
You'd have to make.
and we're happy to take any questions on it. We didn't understand until we got into this hearing what jurisdiction you had, that it pertains to the ADU. And we certainly didn't understand about the driveway and the street-car parking. The driveway that's being proposed is right up against our fence, right? So if you want to talk about, will this impair our enjoyment of our property? The window and from our that now looks at beautiful trees, will be looking onto a driveway and will be, and if there are cars going in and out, then we will certainly be aware of that.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, was the board going to ask questions or were we gonna reopen the hearing?
Because this isn't a response to a question that was specifically asked. This is additional public testimony, which would require a motion from the board to reopen the record to allow additional public testimony.
The question is, can you describe for us the impact on your property, please?
Is that okay, what he just said?
Yeah.
And then do we have to reopen?
If you want to reopen the hearing, yeah, then you would have to make the motion so you could do that. That is correct.
Can
I move,
Yeah, you're right on that.
reopen the hearing.
A second. All in favor?
Do you need to repeat or?
I don't think so.
Okay. There, but that driveway, which is right up against our property. We do, if you also look at that, we have a large tree there as well, and that definitely, it's technically on our property, but it's right there. So any kind of building a driveway along our fence,
It's going to impact.
it's going to impact that. And I think that's what the arbor, one of the things the city arborist was talking about, the impact of the neighboring properties.
Well, another issue that has come up with it's concern. I was not aware of the 3-car parking configuration, or that was to code, or whatever the rules were about parking space availability. But if you have a 2-car garage and the 3rd parking space is in the driveway itself, and you have an ADU, it's pretty likely you're going to have to do a lot of musical chairs with the cars just to get them in and out. I suspect, it's been having lived in Cannon Beach for the last 4 years, that it's going to be a strong temptation to park in front of our property along Tanana Avenue, to park in front of neighbor's property, to try, I don't know if it's legal to park across the street. It's a very narrow little street, but there'll be temptations for people to spread their cars out all over the place. And that's already a problem we have during the day when day trippers are coming in and parking there and going down to the beach. So I just wonder whether that's the wisest use of, what little available parkable property there or space there is on that property, because it does slant down. There's a lot of unusable space towards the rear to cram 3 cars in there and not expect some of that to spill over into a street that's already, as our neighbor Michelle mentioned, been narrowed by 8 feet over the years. It seems unwise, to say the least.
Well, thank you.
Is there a setback requirement for the driveway from the side?
No, driveways don't have setbacks.
Did we close public comment again?
No, you reopened, because it was reopened, Jay has requested opportunity to respond, so.
Okay, Jay, you're on.
The requirement that you're there to confirm is if we have 3 cars. The procession, the use, I do not feel falls within the jurisdiction of the design review. The owners to the west do have uses. If people start parking on the street, they can call the police, they can have it towed. But then again, this is outside of the jurisdiction of the design review. I understand that, just that doesn't fall in the category. Our driveway is compliant. The driveway is not part of design review. That is part of the planning in the house. The house is not under the design review jurisdiction. I understand, but this is the municipal code that we're talking about.
I don't see how that space in the driveway can be considered as a legitimate parking space if it blocks the other two spaces in the garage.
The driveway itself is the parking spot. The perception of in and out and moving of cars is not within the design review jurisdiction. 3 spots are provided, 9 by 18.
Michelle,
Me, who's like, I'm here.
If an ADU is put in the back with a 2-car garage, you have a single driveway going into the ADU. Even if the homeowners were using the 2 parking spaces in the garage, the ADU would be then need to park in the driveway or vice versa. So I don't see how, and that's just not going to happen. I mean, what's going to take place is that, yeah, the homeowners will use the 2-car garage and the driveway, and the ADU person will be parked out on the street. There's no way that driveway can do both. It's a 1 single car driveway with access to a 2-car garage. If the ADU is parked in the driveway, that garage is not accessible. So somebody's going to have to park out on the street. And as I said, right now, our street is already limited and compromised by the city giving 8 feet of it to the properties to the north. And as several of you have come up and seen the site, you yourselves have had to do some maneuvering and turning around. And we get Peter and I, we've had, workers come to do landscaping on our house and such, and they can hardly remove or UPS or anybody for deliveries. If there's any cars on that street, it is almost impossible to get in and out of our property without really having to maneuver around a bit. And I suggest that with the detached garage in the back, somebody's going to have to park out on the street, because that access to the garage is not accessible if somebody's parked in the driveway.
I think that's a really good point.
thank you. Guess we'll go back, close the hearing again.
Can I respond real quick?
Okay,
Again, the parking in the street is a public service issue, not a design review issue. However, I would be willing to talk to the owners if the ADU is approved with no conditions, that we widen the driveway at the northwest corner to provide 1 additional parking spot there. It will not have the 9 by 18 requirement, so this will have to also be within the planning because of the deck. We will be short 3 feet into the right of way. But again, I can probably get the owners to make a concession if it's all right around this parking, which absolutely has no jurisdiction of design review.
well, we do.
I understand, but we provide 3 parking spots, 2 in the garage, 1 in the driveway. That is the requirement of.
How can a driveway be considered a parking space?
Correct.
That's what I'm not understanding.
That's
interesting.
That is beyond what the code says, the municipal code.
What part of the code says that?
I guess the one thing is there are a lot of homes that have, don't have garages, that just have driveways.
Okay, so they're considering those, okay,
Spaces.
okay.
Because they don't have a garage.
I'm just saying, I was answering the question. That's not to say that you can't have different ideas on this, but in that case, it was just an example.
Right,
Yeah, the language simply says off-street parking.
Right.
right.
Yeah, I'd be willing to talk to the owners. But I cannot make it as a condition of the approval of the design review. I will do it as.
Can you off the top of your head, think of any other ADUs of the same situation where they're using the driveway to satisfy the parking?
Last ADU that
Didn't
this
we-
commission heard had 3 stacked with one in the garage.
I think that was the one that was already there and they built the ADU above it.
Okay.
There's another one in mind.
I don't know if you want to close the hearing, but up to you.
Okay. Do it. You want to close?
And we'll close the hearing.
All right, well, I don't see any real way to deny it in a way that isn't gonna just,
Blow up.
but I don't know if we can in our motion.
I mean,
with
none of us are,
And
I'm,
as the DRB and only being concerned with the ADU, that's where I was really hoping we could get it to the planning commission, but I
it's
failed.
not gonna happen. I know, I love that you're trying, but it's not. I mean, I'm not gonna make a motion to approve. I'd make a motion to deny, but
Based on what?
I mean, I know you think that it's gonna be, but for the one that I keep saying, the arrangement of the improvements of the site does not unreasonably degrade the scenic value of the surrounding areas. That's,
Motion.
I make a motion to deny based on, on this site design criteria. I make a motion to deny the arrangement of based on, God, I'm really bad at this. The arrangement of the improvements on the site do not unreasonably degrade the scenic values of the surrounding areas, because I think they do.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion on that? Those in favor?
Bye.
I would be opposed.
Does Jen vote?
Her things, she was like, my thing's about to die.
Did you get everyone?
Yes.
3-1?
Okay. Motion to approve the architectural design.
I make a motion to deny the architectural design based on what I said, the design that project ensures continued privacy for the occupants of the adjacent structures in case of the multi-family house, blah, whatever. Sorry, that was terrible. I said I'm bad at this. Second,
Who seconded?
Harvey.
Okay. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I guess I'll hide that one.
All right.
I'm not doing the landscaping.
I didn't see a landscaping plan.
Oh, you didn't?
Well, I would, let's start with a motion to approve the landscaping plan under the condition that they replant 3 of the trees to the east, maybe between Peter. I'm not quite sure how to in the landscaping because I couldn't see it to know what the heck they're doing. Do we approve it with conditions or do we just approve it?
We can go with conditions.
And I'd like to see the tree or the natural material, the natural vegetation used in the landscape.
Look, the scenic view was modified by removal of.
So,
Who does? Okay, I did it again. So it's just the landscaping for the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, complement the character of the site. I mean, it's hard to know if it does because I couldn't get a good understanding of the landscape plan, so maybe we'll deny.
Is the landscape plan for the whole entire thing?
No,
I think it's just for the ADU.
Yeah.
And there really isn't
Yes.
any,
Yeah, there's nothing there really.
All right, how about, okay, I move to deny the landscape design evaluation criteria based on 17.44.100A. That the design does not seem to substantially complement the natural environment of Cannon Beach and the character of the site.
Oh, I second.
That's the motion.
anybody second?
I did. Oh, well, we all do. Yeah, Harvey did.
I said,
Go for
we
it.
have a second. Michelle.
Thirded.
Michelle seconded.
The motion is to deny the landscape plan.
Based on criteria A, that it does not appear to substantially complement the natural environment of the character of the site.
I mean, there's not really any information, so.
Those in favor of denying?
I
I
Okay. In this case, is there a motion buying the appropriate orders? Since we denied at least one thing, is there?
We denied everything.
Fine at this point or
there
not?
will be orders. After I draft findings, I will send those to you with a copy of the orders.
Okay. Is there a motion for me to sign the appropriate orders?
I make a motion for Dave to sign the appropriate orders. Somebody want a second?
Second.
Okay. I didn't know that was a thing.
Those in favor?
I,
Okay. That's it. On hearing items, discussion items. Any, you have a discussion item or were you baiting me?
I was teasing you.
Okay.
I don't know that we have anything good to the order.
Any good of the order
The
item?
order right now.
All right, we are adjourned.